16 Minutes of Care is a podcast based on the CARE principles, a strategic framework that reveals how brands create impact by caring and, as a result, grow their business. In each episode, Isabel welcomes a company executive who explains how CARE has helped their business grow successfully and sustainably.
Welcome in 16 Minutes of Care. Today I have Thomas Van Eeckhout here as my guest. Thomas is the CEO of Easi. They are an IT solutions and services company. And they have an amazing internal culture and a very specific set of values. I would like to dive a bit deeper into the CARE model, the CARE strategic model, because taking good care of people really starts internally by taking good care of your own people first. Thomas, welcome.
Thank you.
We talked in the previous episode about the generic, what the company does and how your internal culture is, but I would like to dive a bit deeper into that today because it's really unique. I haven't heard many companies that do that. But first, about your own role. Easi has 2 CEOs instead of 1. There's an expression that says one captain on the boat, but you have 2 captains. How does that work?
Very well, but it's a special boat, so maybe we just need 2 captains in order to do the stuff that we want to do. It's very natural inside of Easi. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, basically our founder, decided to appoint Jean-François and myself as CEOs. We have both started our careers at Easi, both at the age of 21, 22 years old. We have evolved throughout the company. We joined the board, I think, back in 2015, and Jean-François a bit before myself, and we took on the role of CEOs back in 2019, and it's been going quite well and quite hard since 2019. It just makes sense for us. Jean-François and myself have very different profiles and personalities. I often say that Jean-François's comfort zone is Excel and my comfort zone is PowerPoint, and it really is like that. So whenever we need an in-depth analysis and really somebody that goes into details and then understands, and that is so that's basically his strong point, and I'm more about maybe a bit about the vision and strategy and the big fluffy things. But it's a very good combination, and I consider him to be one of my best friends, and I especially back in the day I was 33 years old when I took on the role of CEO. So at that time, I didn't want to do it by myself, and if I had it to do it with somebody else, I didn't want to do it with anybody else. So it's something that I'm quite happy with, and it forces ourselves to basically maybe have a smaller ego, because when we need to do or when we share that role, then basically it also forces us to don't think of ourselves as the most important person in the company. And a company, as far as I'm concerned, should never depend on individuals. So somebody that has that role of CEO and that, for example, stays in that same role for 30 years, I think that's a risk. So whenever we notice that inside of a company, succession is always difficult. If you're at the top of a company for more than 10, 15 years, it becomes quite difficult to replace that individual. So whenever, or at the time when I took on that role, I also said that I was going to stay in that role until the age of 45, which is basically 12 years. And I still commit to that time frame.
And how old are you today?
37, almost. Okay. Yeah, but so I think almost every company claims that evolution is possible inside of a company. But is it really possible if the CEO remains in that same seat forever? It's just not possible.
I think there's 2 things there that you say that are very interesting. The first thing is indeed the ego of the CEO, the power and the respect that people have simply because it says CEO. That is something that still a lot of CEOs really like. I understand from what you're saying that is not the main driver at Easi why you did become CEO when you were two. But the second thing that I find very interesting of what you explain is that you show vulnerability by admitting that you are not good at everything. So you are to make it a very strong duo to lead the company. Not many CEOs dare to say that they are not good at something, right?
Yeah, indeed. And I notice every day that I'm not good at everything. And I especially notice that when discussing with Jean-François and especially when discussing with our executive committee, basically every person in our executive committee could be CEO of the company. They could all be CEOs of any other company. They have such a high level of expertise and experience that it really humbles me when I discuss with my colleagues. So really, I'm convinced that I'm not the most intelligent person in the company, and I might be the right fit for that role today, but I'm convinced that Easi will need another kind of leadership in a couple of years, and then somebody else might be a good fit for that role.
Interesting. You said it in the first episode, you have won many awards: Great Place to Work, Best Managed Company, Company of the Year, HR Pioneer Award. Winning all these awards, was it a goal or is it a happy coincidence?
We're quite competitive. Salvatore had a history as a professional football player, and we very often use metaphors with football and competition and all of those things. So yes, it's part of our DNA. But I remember in 2015 we decided that we needed to work on visibility of the company, and so it's also a choice. We want to join those competitions, and we want to basically put the bar a bit higher day after day after day. And those competitions often allow us or force us to question ourselves and to improve the model. Great Place to Work is a very nice example, which I can maybe share. Back in 2015 or 14, we won for the first time. Salvatore was called on stage, and they asked him for the secret recipe for winning that award, and we had a very inconsistent explanation about ambitions and projects and all of those things, and we weren't quite satisfied with what we shared on stage at that time, and it forced us to really reflect on that model. And whenever you reflect on something, whenever you write something down, it becomes tangible, it becomes clear. You start thinking about other things, you start thinking about ways to take that next step, and it's the same for all of those different awards. Whenever we participate in Best Managed Company, every year it gives us something else to focus on. And that's the way we can move forward as a company, by questioning ourselves, by accepting that we're not perfect, and by committing to continuous improvement. So it's all of those things together that push us to compete, and whenever we compete, we want to win.
It's true that about, 10, 15, 20 years ago, culture and values were more something like a nice to have thing. Like you were saying, when you were looking for a job, you were just so happy that you could find a job. Today, it's very much a differentiator. No, it's what shapes the company, it's what drives the company, but it also gives this long-term purpose and vision and ambition of a company. Is it something that is evolving, the culture and the values, or is it something that you really keep very close to the DNA of the company?
It has to stay very close to the DNA of the company, but it is in constant evolution. I think that the Easi that we know today is very different from the Easi that I joined back in 2006, even if that DNA always remained. We have always been very customer-centric, and if you want to be customer-centric, then we need to be people-centric, because that's the only way you can succeed in having that strategy. But it evolves, and it becomes more and more explicit. and it's something that it's never done. The whole value exercise is something that is so important that it really is something that we have to work on day after day after day. And talking about those values, I think certain companies maybe are losing a bit of their time when working on those values, because it doesn't stop after the offsite where management writes down a couple of values that they claim are important for the company. I believe that's just the starting point. Values need to be, or we try to use values whenever we hire somebody. We use our values whenever we promote somebody, whenever we decide on who can share or who can join us as a shareholder. We use our values, and we also use our values when deciding to stop the collaboration with someone. It's also about that. It really is a compass that we try to use in the important moments that one can have inside of a company or inside of a career.
You were saying previously that you're growing very fast, so you need a lot of people. Mm-hmm. You might tend to just take anybody from the market, but then you see that there might not be a cultural fit once these people join Easi. How do you monitor this? How do you do this when you recruit?
It's not easy, and it's not perfect, but we have a value test. We have a very strong team of recruiters. We manage our recruitment all by ourselves. We have 8 people on recruitment full time, and they have to become expert in that value part. And it's but it's difficult. It's difficult. Hiring people is one of the most difficult things, I believe, inside of a company. But we made a test, for example, where we basically give candidates, we present them with a certain situation and with potential reactions on that situation, and based on their reaction, and especially based on this discussion that we have with them on that reaction, we can have a feeling of the values. Then again, we're often mistaken, and that's not a bad thing. I think the bad thing is to not take responsibility whenever we hire somebody that isn't a fit. At a certain point in time, we need to make a decision. We need to decide if we want to continue or not. And I think maybe too many companies are not taking that decision. And it's very dangerous to lower the bar for people coming in and then not deciding whenever we notice that there isn't a fit. So we try to raise the bar for people coming in, and we remain, or we keep the discipline when it comes to taking those difficult decisions as well. Mm-hmm.
The importance of culture, the importance of values, we discussed this. How do you translate that when you have 8 offices, different countries, hybrid working, mm-hmm. people working from home? How do you keep values and culture alive when people are at home?
As I explained, we use those values whenever we need to decide on important things. But we also make culture and expected behavior very tangible. Something that we do, for example, is we have different roles. Every role inside of our company has 5 or 6 levels. For each level, we have described in detail what we expect, and it's not just about the hours you need to bill to our customers. It's more about the attitude we expect. I'm going to give you one very concrete example, is that in IT, and I think in all knowledge companies or knowledge-driven companies, sharing knowledge and expertise is one of the most important aspects. You can have a rockstar developer, if he isn't sharing what he or she knows, then as a company you're not really, you don't have a return on investment basically, or it's not allowing you to build upon that expertise of that individual. So what we do is at that first level already, we expect people to understand the importance of sharing knowledge, expertise, and all of those things. And whenever somebody wants to evolve in the company, we're becoming more and more demanding. At the highest level, or whenever somebody is senior in his role, we expect him or her to actively contribute to continuous sharing of knowledge. We expect them to come with solutions, with tools, with processes that force us to share that knowledge. And that is, I think, one example of how you have to make culture explicit and how you can basically align the ambitions somebody has, because people want to evolve, they don't want flat careers, they want to take that next step. We align those ambitions with the ambitions we have as a company. And whenever we succeed in doing that, it really becomes very easy. And that's what we try to do. So it's really about making that culture explicit, because indeed we have challenges. We have 8 offices. We're beginning of September now. We have hired 100 new colleagues since the beginning of the year. And we'll probably still hire 60 or 70 people before the end of the year. So it's really worthwhile to focus on that and to make sure that that we hire the right people and that we promote people that are showing the right attitude.
We'll talk more about that in the 3rd episode. Thank you so much, Thomas. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to 16 Minutes of Care. We'll be back in the 3rd episode talking more about the CARE strategic framework, collaboration, agility, reliability, and empathy. Thank you very much and take care.
Want to create lasting impact with your brand while feeding sustainable growth? Check out 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗊𝗲 and see how we can help you. 16 Minutes of Care is an independent production from Isabel Verstraeten, brand strategist, founder of the CARE Principles, and author of the book, Does Your Brand Care? Help us reach more companies who are looking for caring and sustainable growth by giving this podcast all the stars it deserves and by sharing it in your network. Thank you and take care.